In the crumbling remnants of what was once a thriving metropolis, Maya huddled in the shadows of a dilapidated tenement, her gaunt frame shivering against the biting cold. The city, now a grotesque parody of its former glory, stretched out before her like a festering wound. Skeletal buildings reached towards a perpetually gray sky, their broken windows gaping like hungry mouths. The streets, once bustling with life, were now silent save for the occasional scurrying of rats and the distant, haunting wails of the desperate. Maya's hollow cheeks and sunken eyes betrayed the constant hunger that gnawed at her insides. Her once lustrous hair hung in greasy, matted clumps around her face, and her skin was a patchwork of dirt and old scars. Yet beneath the grime and desperation, a fierce intelligence burned in her eyes, a spark of defiance that refused to be extinguished. As she peered out from her hiding place, Maya's gaze was drawn to the massive screens that dominated the city's central square. The image of the benefactor flickered to life, his grotesquely swollen face filling the screen. His eyes, small and pig-like, seemed to bore into Maya's soul as his voice boomed across the desolate landscape. "Citizens of our glorious society," the benefactor's voice oozed false benevolence. "It is time once again for our annual games, a chance for the worthy to prove themselves and earn their place in paradise." Maya's stomach churned with a mixture of fear and disgust. She had seen the games before, brutal, blood-soaked spectacles that left the arena stained crimson and littered with broken bodies. But the prize, a year's worth of food and a chance to escape this hellish existence. The temptation was almost overwhelming. As if reading her thoughts, the benefactor's lips curled into a cruel smile. "And this year we have a special treat. Our beloved Maya will be joining the games." Maya's heart stopped. How did he know her name? How had she been chosen? Panic clawed at her throat as she realized there was no escape. In this world, the benefactor's word was law, and to defy him meant certain death. The days leading up to the games were a blur of fear and preparation. Maya was herded into a processing center, where she was stripped, hosed down with icy water, and given a threadbare uniform that hung loosely on her emaciated frame. As she was pushed from station to station, she caught glimpses of her fellow competitors, each as desperate and terrified as she was. It was during this time that she first laid eyes on Clara. Unlike the others, Clara seemed almost serene, her piercing blue eyes calmly surveying the chaos around her. Her auburn hair was neatly braided, and despite the harsh conditions, her skin seemed to glow with health. Maya found herself drawn to Clara's composure, a stark contrast to the fear that threatened to consume her. As they were herded into the holding pens before the games began, Clara approached Maya with a disarming smile. "First time?" she asked, her voice surprisingly gentle. Maya nodded, unable to find her voice. Clara's hand found hers, squeezing it reassuringly. "Stick with me," she whispered. "We'll survive this together." For a moment, Maya felt a flicker of hope. But as the klaxon sounded and the gates to the arena swung open, that hope was quickly extinguished by the wave of terror that washed over her. The arena was a nightmare made real. What had once been a sprawling city park had been transformed into a labyrinth of death. Twisted metal structures rose from the ground like the bones of some monstrous creature. The air was thick with the stench of decay and the metallic tang of blood. In the distance, Maya could hear the agonized screams of the first victims. Clara grabbed Maya's hand, pulling her into the maze. "We need to find shelter," she hissed, "and weapons, anything we can use to defend ourselves." As they ran, Maya's mind raced. How could she possibly survive this? She had no combat training, no survival skills. She was nothing more than prey in this sick game. Their first encounter with another competitor came suddenly and violently. A man, his eyes wild with fear and hunger, lunged at them from behind a rusted-out car. Without hesitation, Clara grabbed a jagged piece of metal from the ground and plunged it into the man's throat. Blood sprayed across Maya's face as the man gurgled and collapsed. Maya stared in horror at the twitching body, bile rising in her throat. Clara, however, was already searching the corpse for anything useful. "Here," she said, tossing Maya a small knife. "You'll need this." As the days wore on, Maya found herself changing. The constant fear, the desperate struggle for survival, the brutal acts she was forced to commit, they all took their toll. She became harder, colder. The knife Clara had given her was now stained with the blood of those who had tried to kill her. Clara remained by her side throughout it all, a constant presence that Maya clung to like a lifeline. In the quiet moments between the violence, they shared whispered conversations and fleeting touches that hinted at something more than mere alliance. But even as Maya felt herself drawn to Clara, a nagging doubt gnawed at the back of her mind. How had Clara survived so long? How did she always seem to know where to find food and water? And why did she sometimes disappear for hours at a time, only to return with fresh supplies and information about the other competitors? The answer came on the 10th day of the games. Maya awoke to find Clara gone, her side of their makeshift shelter cold. Panic gripped her as she stumbled out into the pre-dawn gloom, calling Clara's name in a hoarse whisper. She found Clara in a small clearing, speaking in hushed tones to a figure shrouded in shadow. As Maya crept closer, she recognized the grotesque features of the benefactor himself, projected onto a hidden screen. "You've done well, Clara." The benefactor's voice oozed satisfaction. "The girl trusts you completely. When the time comes, you know what to do." Maya's world shattered. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife, leaving her gasping for air. As she stumbled backward, a twig snapped beneath her foot. Clara whirled around, her eyes widening in shock and guilt. "Maya, I can explain," Clara began. But Maya was already running, tears blurring her vision as she plunged deeper into the arena. For hours, Maya ran blindly, her mind reeling from the revelation. Every moment she had shared with Clara, every tender touch and whispered word of comfort, had been a lie. She had been nothing more than a pawn in the benefactor's sick game. As night fell, Maya found herself in the heart of the arena. The central plaza, once a symbol of the city's prosperity, was now a grotesque altar to the benefactor's power. Massive screens surrounded the area, each displaying the benefactor's leering face. "Ah, Maya!" His voice boomed across the plaza. "I've been waiting for you. Did you enjoy my little surprise?" Maya's hands clenched into fists, her nails digging into her palms until they drew blood. "Why?" she screamed. "Why do all this?" The benefactor's laughter echoed through the night. "Why? For control, my dear. Fear and hunger are the greatest motivators. They make people predictable, malleable. And in this world, control is everything." From the shadows, Clara emerged, her face a mask of regret. "I'm sorry, Maya," she said softly. "I had no choice. It was the only way to survive." Maya felt something inside her snap. The last vestiges of her humanity, already frayed by the horrors she had endured, finally gave way. With a primal scream, she launched herself at Clara, her knife flashing in the dim light. The two women grappled, their bodies intertwined in a deadly dance. Blood flowed freely as they traded blows, each fighting with the desperate strength of those with nothing left to lose. In the end, it was Maya who stood victorious, her knife buried to the hilt in Clara's chest. As the life faded from Clara's eyes, Maya felt no triumph, no satisfaction, only a hollow emptiness that threatened to consume her. The benefactor's voice cut through the silence. "Well done, Maya. You've proven yourself worthy, but the game isn't over yet. There's one final test." A panel slid open in the ground, revealing a staircase leading down into darkness. Maya, her body aching and her spirit broken, descended into the unknown. What she found in the depths of the arena would haunt her for the rest of her days. row upon row of pods, each containing a human being in suspended animation, and at the center of it all, a withered, decrepit figure, the true form of the benefactor. "Welcome, Maya," the creature wheezed. "Welcome to the source of our power. These souls, trapped between life and death, fuel our society. Their fear, their pain, their hunger, it sustains us all." Maya stared in horror at the grotesque spectacle before her. In that moment, she understood the true nature of the world she lived in, the depths of depravity to which humanity had sunk. "You have a choice, Maya," the benefactor continued. "Join us. Become one of the elite who rule this world, or take your place among the batteries that power it." Maya looked down at the knife in her hand, still slick with Clara's blood. She thought of all she had endured, all she had lost, and in that moment, she made her choice. The screens above the arena flickered to life one last time, showing Maya's face. But the eyes that stared back at the citizens were not the eyes of the girl who had entered the games. They were the eyes of someone who had stared into the abyss and embraced what she found there. "Citizens," Maya's voice rang out cold and commanding. "Your benefactor is dead. Long live the new benefactor." And in the depths of the arena, surrounded by the pods of the damned, Maya took her place on the throne of bones, ready to perpetuate the cycle of fear and hunger that would keep her in power. For in this world, she had learned, it was better to be the monster than the prey.